Peace and blessings, everybody. We're going to continue on with part 2 of these documents that were made available tonight or today. And so basically we have a man by the name of Martin Gottesfeld. He's got a website called freemartyg.com. I'm going to need to go through and read his website to learn more about him. But it appears he's a human rights activist, and he's sharing the same prison as Schaeffer Cox, as David Hinkson, as Kurt Johnson, as Russell Landers, as Robert David Neal, that was murdered in November of 2018. Now, we know that torture is going on, and we know that they're not allowing letters to get into the prison from me. They're directing the mail any which way they want to. We know that Robert David Neal was murdered and beheaded. We know they're trying to cover that up. It's very likely they coordinated the murder because Robert David Neal had successful lawsuits against the BOP. And let's read this letter. Now, he's sending this to people on his core links list. Alex Newman is a name that stands out because he's with the New American. He's a very famous journalist. You've also got John Kirikou, which is the only man who went to prison for the torture scandal, and that was because he blew the whistle on it. Of course, John Brennan doesn't call it torture. He calls it enhanced interrogation techniques. But here's what it says: subject, urgent statement, Friday, April the 26th, 2019. So you have a prison cellmate of Schaeffer Cox, and he's sending out an urgent statement on April the 26th. Hi, Elmira, Kellen, Ryan, Frank, John, Kevin, Alex, Mitchell, Dana, Lori, Ian, Ben, Jeremy, and Virginia. I am sending this message at approximately 8:59 p.m. on Friday, April the 26th, 2019. I hereby make the following statement available under the latest Creative Commons Share-alike commercial use permitted, no derivatives by attribution license. I believe that the Justice Department of the Inspector General needs to send agents to interview inmates and staff here at the Communications Management Unit at the Federal Correctional Institution in Terre Haute, Indiana, because the BOP CTU, which caused the shots in the facility, is covering up an ISIS-inspired murder which occurred here in November. I cannot name the victim for fear of retaliation from the BOP CTU, but I would gladly discuss the matter with the OIG, Office of Inspector General. The BOP CTU also unlawfully interferes with legal filings to both federal and local courts, as well as with attorney-client privilege mail. Important documents should soon be docketed with the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado on case number blah, 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 and in the Honorable U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York on case number blah, blah, blah. Should those documents fail to appear, then I would suspect foul play. There is a former unit manager from the Terre Haute CMU named Clint Swift, who I believe was a part of the cover-up of the murder in November and for other blatant and corrupt obstructions of justice. I believe that agents from the DOJ's OIG need to interview inmates and staff regarding their experiences with Mr. Swift. In the wake of the murder last November, the FBI was blocked from conducting a full investigation. They were not able to conduct all of the interviews that should have been carried out due to the unlawful interference by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, FBOP, and its CTU. Ironically, the FBOP's counterterrorism unit appears to have covered for terrorists because doing otherwise would have exposed its own negligence and deliberate indifference in the run-up to the attack, as well as its conspiracy to obstruct justice in its wake. In addition to the one inmate who was killed, another one was stabbed multiple times, but survived. It is unclear to me if the FBI has ever spoken to the surviving victim. The FCI Terre Haute CMU has its own distinct punishment zone called the Special Housing Unit, or SHU. This SHU is separate and different from the SHUs elsewhere in the vast prison complex, which are used to punish other inmates. The CMU SHU is physically located in the CMU itself, so if one has never been inside the Terre Haute CMU, they have never been inside the CMU's own separate and distinct SHU. The FCI Terre Haute CMU SHU is located directly over a steam pipe. Inmates can and have cooked burritos on the floor. It is that hot. Inmates are often unable to stand on the floor in the CMU SHU. Additionally, the FCI's Terre Haute CMU SHU is poorly ventilated, so there is no escape from the oppressive heat. During inspections, the steam pipe is shut off, so that inspectors like those from the American Correctional Association who are currently auditing the facility can look the other way. The ACA's former leader is himself currently serving a 19-year-plus federal prison sentence for bribery, after bragging about himself as the tallest hog at the trough. Yet the ACA continues to rubber stamping atrocity in America. The drinking water in the FCI Terre Haute CMU SHU is contaminated and causes convulsive vomiting and extreme diarrhea. Unlike inmates placed in other SHUs, inmates placed in the Terre Haute CMU SHU are routinely denied access to their legal work, despite imminent court deadlines, as well as access to writing implements, paper, and stamps, so they cannot reach the courts. These alleged conditions violate the 6th and 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, as well as duly ratified and binding international humanitarian accords, such as the United Nations Convention Against Torture. CMU inmates who are charged with inmate disciplinary infractions, as I have now been by FBOP employee Richard Blythe for helping another inmate attempt to serve process in a civil case against likely government agents who infiltrated his legal defense fund and siphoned money away from it, are denied true due process and found guilty no matter how clear and irrefutably the law and evidence speak in their favor. I was handed an unnumbered and rushed FBOP incident report dated more than a year ago, prior to even my arrival at FCI Terre Haute. It was issued by Mr. Blythe in blatant retaliation for the help I was prevented from providing to another inmate who needed and still needs to access the federal court in Colorado. This impunity and lack of due process, as well as access to the courts, means that current and former administrators like Mr. Clint Swift can effectively intimidate and coerce inmates against even trying to file the courts or speak with investigators. Civil cases against the FBOP and the CMU have been dropped due to such coercive measures. Again, I would welcome an opportunity to discuss these matters with the Office of the Inspector General, as well as the opportunity to call witnesses before the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado and the Honorable U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Marty G. Gottesfeld from a DOJ black site prison, signed under penalty of perjury, Martin S. Gottesfeld. All right, this next letter is the last one, but it's 29 pages. I don't know if we're going to make it through all 29 pages. We'll probably make it. We'll just read it until we don't want to read it no more. Motion for motion for something judgment. Okay, I'm going to put all of these documents on Schaeffer Cox's webpage, on his #2 webpage. So if you want to find them, go to yearofjubilee.com. The other name is IHateTheFBI.com. Jubilee spelled with one E, by the way. And right here on Schaeffer Cox Prison Letters and Supreme Court Docs, you know what? I might make this, I'll make a new section, a new file section called Martin Gottesfeld Letters from FCI Terre Haute. I'll make a section right here and I'll put all 4 of his letters right there. Plaintiff Martin S. Gottesfeld, acting pro se and in anticipation of filing an amended complaint in the instant case detailing both the continuation of previous bad acts by the defendants as well as new but not unrelated unlawful violations by the same defendants, hereby moves the Honorable Court for a declaratory judgment that the defendants and their agents, employees, designees, contractors, and other entities acting under their control, herein collectively offending actors, are not entitled to qualified immunity for their blatant unconstitutional retaliation against the plaintiff for his lawful assistance to other inmates. In support of this motion, the plaintiff wishes to direct the Honorable Court's attention to the exhibits provided herewith. Exhibit 1, Affidavit of Martin S. Gottesfeld, dated April 28, 2019. Exhibit 2, Emergency Ex parte Motion for Temporary Restraining Order, and exhibits thereto filed in exhibit in the case of blah, 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 in the District of Colorado. Exhibit 3, Ex parte Motion for Declaratory Judgment, and exhibits thereto filed IBID. And Exhibit 4, Supplemental Ex parte Motion for Declaratory Judgment, and exhibits thereto filed IBID. Should the Honorable Court find that the plaintiff has failed to meet an evidentiary burden required for it to issue the requested judgment, then the plaintiff kindly request an evidentiary hearing when possible, whereat he can call relevant witnesses such as Mr. Richard Blythe and other offending actors. Respectfully mailed and filed in accordance with Houston v. Lack, 487 U.S. 266, 1988, Monday, April the 29th, 2019. All right. And this appears to be his signature. Affidavit of Martin S. Gottesfeld. I, Martin S. Gottesfeld, do hereby affirm that the following is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief on this 28th day of April, 2019. 1. My name is Martin S. Gottesfeld, and my federal registration number is 12982-104. 2. I am an inmate in the Communications Management Unit, CMU, of the Federal Correctional Institute, Terre Haute. 3. Francis Schaeffer Cox, federal registration number 16179-006, is also an inmate in the FCI Terre Haute, CMU. 4. Mr. Cox needs help properly filling out USM-285 forms in order to comply with a valid court order in the case of blah, 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 pending before the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado, and he is facing an immovable deadline to complete service of process on the relevant civil defendants by May the 20th of 2019. Number 5, at approximately 8:40 a.m. on Friday, April the 19th, 2019, I attempted to send an electronic message to my wife, Miss Dana E. Gottesfeld, in order to track down the necessary information to help Mr. Cox properly fill out his USM 285 forms in compliance with the lawful court order required him to do so, and to complete the subsequent service of process on May the 20th, 2019. 6. I neither asked for nor obtained anything of value in my return for helping filling out the USM 285 forms for Mr. Cox. 7. I am not alleged to have sought nor obtained anything of value in exchange for helping Mr. Cox, fill out his USM-285 forms. Number 8, on Wednesday, April the 24th, 2019, I filed an administrative remedy form, BP-8, with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, stating explicitly that I was not given any hearing before I was placed in a communications management unit, and my current offenses of conviction and offense conduct do not indicate a substantial likelihood that I will encourage, coordinate, facilitate, or otherwise act in furtherance of illegal activity through communication with persons in the community, especially in light of the simple fact that in my 3 years in custody prior to arriving at the CMU, I had never once been adjudicated guilty of a single inmate disciplinary charge, and I was never placed on restricted correspondence or communications in any way prior. Number 9, in order to justify my continued placement in a CMU, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, FBOP, and its designees needed to establish that I have violated communications policies in the unit. 10, at approximately 12:28 p.m. on Thursday, April the 25th, 2019, i.e. the day after I filed the above-mentioned BP-8, an FBOP incident report was delivered to me. Number 11, the incident report was numbered, written on a BP-80288 form, and clearly dated April the 19th, 2018. Emphasis added. The aforementioned incident report is an attempt to stop me from assisting Mr. Cox in a politically sensitive case. 13. The aforementioned incident report is clearly unlawful, given long-standing, well-known, unambiguous, and binding U.S. Supreme Court precedents, which should be, and more likely than not, are in fact known to prison officials who are paid professionals in the role of the report's author, Mr. Richard Blythe. 14. Mr. Blythe knows all about my pending civil action in the Southern District of New York due to his role analyzing all my incoming and outgoing court correspondence, as well as the copies of the essential items from the docket, which predate my arrival in the CMU, but which nonetheless were sent to me and had arrived for his analysis prior to his authorship of the incident report, including thus far the complaint itself and my motions for temporary injunctions. 15. Mr. Blythe, far more likely than not, was aware of my recently filed BP-8 at the time he authored the incident report. 16. The aforementioned incident report is, therefore, clearly retaliatory against me for filing my BP-8, my assistance to Mr. Cox in a politically sensitive case, and my pending case in the Southern District of New York. Yet, despite his likely knowledge, Mr. Blythe still undertook this blatant unconstitutional act of reprisal against me, despite the watchful eye of the Honorable Court. 18. Litigating this new issue has caused me extreme anxiety, lost sleep, significant stress, and severe mental anguish, as both inmates and staff alike have warned me about the unconscionable conditions to which Mr. Blythe is trying to subject me in the Terre Haute CMU Special Housing Unit. 19. The above-mentioned anxiety, stress, and anguish are all compounded by the fact, well established based on previous unconstitutional and retaliatory such incident reports authored by Mr. Blythe and his colleagues, that I will summarily be found guilty no matter how strong the law safeguards and charged conduct in clear and impugned offense to the Constitution and due process. 20. Due to this incident and my likely inevitable loss of any and all ability to communicate with the courts and the outside world, I have had to issue a statement regarding the ISIS-inspired murder of FCI Terre Haute CMU inmate Robert David Neal and the attempted ISIS-inspired murder of former FCI Terre Haute CMU inmate Richard Warren prior to the conclusion of my fact-finding efforts, and this may damage irrevocably the potential investigation of the DOJ's Office of the Inspector General into the cover-up of the incident by Mr. Richard Blythe and his colleagues, as well as my team's investigation into the same. 21. Due to my need to litigate this issue on an expedited timeline, I have also lost approximately 3 days of work litigating other matters, including my pending civil suit in the Southern District of New York, as well as work publishing articles at national political publications involving DOJ malfeasance. 22. By litigating this issue, I have had to expend limited and non-recoverable financial and other resources. Signed, penalty of perjury, Martin S. Gottesfeld, pro se. The next file looks like some sort of document. Francis Schaeffer Cox, pro se versus Terry Dodd. Schaeffer Cox is having to sue people because the FBI sent in informants to derail his legal fundraising efforts. So I'm not going to read all of this. You can read it if you want to. I'm going to upload all of this to Year of Jubilee. Okay, this is the affidavit of Francis Schaeffer Cox. This might be important. I, Francis Schaeffer Cox, do hereby affirm that the following is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief on this 26th day of April, 2019. Okay, hold on. I, Francis Schaeffer Cox, hereby certify. All right, okay. 1. My name is Francis Schaeffer Cox, and my federal registration number is 16179-006. 2. I am an inmate in the Communications Management Unit, or CMU, of the Federal Correctional Institution, FCI Terre Haute, Indiana. 3. I have read the 28-paragraph affidavit prepared and executed under penalty of perjury by Martin S. Gottesfeld, federal registration number 12982-104, and I hereby also affirm under penalty of perjury that the aforementioned affidavit of Mr. Gottesfeld is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief on this 26th day of April 2019. 4. The incident report referenced by Mr. Gottesfeld in his affidavit is merely the latest in a long line of attempts by the Federal Bureau of Prisons to interfere with my ability to pursue my pending civil case in the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado, as well as rectification on the underlying matter. 5. For instance, and by way of demonstration and not limitation, at 7:13 a.m. on Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2019, I sent an electronic message to Eli Clemens stating, "Ask Ammon Bundy for the name and contact info of a good attorney in Colorado. I think he knows one. Maybe his name is Morgan Philpott, if I remember. Ask him if he wants to help me sue the guy who is an informant who stole my defense fund. Point him to the 2328 case on Pacer." The next day, the aforementioned electronic message to Eli Clemens was blocked by the government. 7. Further, while the events and controversy in my pending case in the District of Colorado were developing, I was emphatically threatened with retaliation by the intelligence research specialist, Miss Kathy Hill, if I were to take actions to remove Mr. Dodd from his role as the administrator of my legal defense fund, and to replace him with Miss Angela Clemens. Number 8, Miss Kathy Hill worked at the Communications Management Unit in Marion, Illinois, at the time referenced above. Signed under penalty of perjury, Francis Schaeffer Cox. Yeah, this is J.R. Bell, who I call Hemorrhoid Boy. Warden J.R. Bell is a child of the devil, and there's a specially hot place in hell for him. Okay, this appears to be... This is another affidavit of Martin S. Gottesfeld. I, Martin S. Gottesfeld, do hereby affirm that the following is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief on this 26th day of April 2019. My name is Martin S. Gottesfeld. 2. I'm an inmate of the Communications Management Unit at FCI Terre Haute. 3. The Federal Bureau of Prisons provides no assistance to inmates who need to fill out USM 285 forms for service of process, such as Mr. Francis Schaeffer Cox. Nor does the FBOP help inmates locate defendants on whom they are attempting to serve process. 4. In order to properly fill out USM 285 form, the litigant must ascertain the address where the given other party can be located in order to have the process served upon the other party. 5. On or about Thursday, April the 18th, 2019, the plaintiff, Francis Schaeffer Cox, who is a fellow inmate here in the CMU at FCI Terre Haute, told me he was having great difficulty locating defendants in order to complete service of process on them for his pending civil case in the Honorable U.S. District Court for Colorado, and that he was rapidly running out of time to do so. 6. The Federal Bureau of Prisons knows that I am a journalist and that my team and I have specific experience locating people who have gone to ground. 7. I have published dozens of articles as a contributor to Huffington Post, many, if not most of which are featured prominently on its front page. Huffington Post is one of the most read political publications in the country, and its website is ranked in the top 100 most viewed nationwide. 8. I have published dozens of articles at redstate.com, many of which were featured prominently on its front page. redstate.com is a widely read national political publication. 9. InfoWars has prominently featured dozens of my articles from freemartygg.com on its front page. InfoWars is one of the most read political publications in the country, and its website is ranked in the top 1,000 most viewed nationwide. Recently, I became a reporter for The Intercept. The Intercept is one of the most influential political publications in the nation. The Western Journal and WND.com each occasionally publish my writing. The Western Journal is one of the 4 most viewed conservative publications online, and its website is ranked in the top 300 most viewed nationwide. WND.com is also one of the largest and most read political publications in the country, and its website is ranked in the top 1,000 most viewed nationwide. Parts of my story have also appeared at Rolling Stone, Newsweek, The National Review, and on television in over 100 countries. 12. It is known to the FBOP that I am interested in covering Mr. Cox's case in the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado, as well as the recent murder of the CMU inmate Robert David Neal, for major national news outlets such as the above. 13. I sent an electronic message to my wife, Miss Dana E. Gottesfeld, at 8:40 a.m. on Friday, April the 19th, 2019, asking her to use her experience and skills as a fellow journalist to locate the missing defendants in Mr. Cox's case in the District of Colorado, knowing at the time that the FCI Terre Haute CMU provides no legal assistance to inmates. Yeah, okay. On Wednesday, April the 24th, I filed an administrative remedy. I had never, not once, been adjudicated guilty on a single inmate disciplinary charge, and I was never placed on restricted correspondence or communications in any way prior. 15. On Thursday, April the 25th, the day following the filing aforementioned, some 6 days following the aforementioned electronic message to my wife, and not until immediately after Mr. Cox's hearing, that day before the Honorable U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado, when it was too late to inform the Honorable Court in real time, as well as directly before Mr. Cox's story was featured on an InfoWars program, I was served an incident report or a prison disciplinary charge for my attempts to help Mr. Cox. The incident report is unnumbered, but the incident report dates. I'm going to let you guys read the specifics. I believe that Angela Clemens is having trouble tracking down a few people to be able to serve process on them. So they're trying to do a surface check for the people who stole Schaeffer's legal defense funds in order to meet the deadline. The aforementioned electronic message to my wife does not appear in my rejected message list at this time. Generally, incident reports must be delivered to inmates who are being charged with disciplinary infractions. He's commenting about the timing, April the 19th, 2018. Many inmates inform me that the current discipline hearing officer for the FCI Terre Haute CMU, a Mr. Bradley, routinely ignores the Constitution, federal statutes, and FBOP regulations to rule against inmates no matter what. This means that once charged, inmates suffer brutal and barbaric sanctions as a mere result of being charged, and that even if later exonerated, it is too late to avoid unconscionable suffering. Basically, even when people like the aforementioned report's author, Mr. Richard Blythe, eventually lose, it doesn't really matter because they have already succeeded in having the inmate punished and could clearly do so in the exact same manner again. The FCI Terre Haute CMU has its own special housing unit, which is separate and distinct from the special housing units used to punish inmates elsewhere in the institution. The administration of the Terre Haute CMU are well aware and deliberately indifferent to the fact that the FCI Terre Haute Special Housing Unit is brutally hot due to a steam pipe which runs directly underneath it, and that the inmates in a neighboring section, heated by the same steam pipe, can and do cook food simply by placing it on the floor. The drinking water in the Terre Haute CMU shoe is known to cause convulsive vomiting and diarrhea. Inmates in the FCI Terre Haute CMU shoe are routinely denied access to their legal work despite imminent court deadlines, are routinely deprived of sleep due to constant loud noise. People are put in the shoe by design, by creating false incident reports by Mr. Richard Blythe and the DHO Bradley. I did not seek, nor was I offered anything of value for helping Mr. Cox. The aforementioned electronic message to my wife asking for her assistance as completing the service of process on the absent defendants was likely never actually allowed out to her, and therefore it is far more likely than not that her help is yet to be engaged in order to fulfill the court's lawful order. He doesn't even know what goes out and what doesn't go out. Okay, these are more legal motions. I'll let you read these. These are from Schaeffer Cox. This appears to be another affidavit about Mr. Gottesfeld trying to help Schaeffer Cox. Okay, this appears to be a letter to the legal department. He talks about how bad the FBI are. I mean, we already know that. They're just children of the devil. Okay, this is quite an extensive letter. All of these will be placed on Schaeffer Cox's website. If you want a copy, let me know, and I'll let you know where to download them. Thank you for your time.